My name is Ifra Abdullah.
What do you do?
I am the co-founder, co-director of Woven, and that stands for Weaving Opportunities and Vocalizing Anti-Racist Narratives. Our mission here at Woven is to provide direct services to women who are facing domestic and sexual violence. With that, our framework is to focus on providing anti-racist intentional services for women and children. Our organization helps the community is that we face the issues of domestic and sexual abuse head on, and providing women the safe space so that they can come together and become a healing circle within each other. And this helps our community because it allows women and children to have a voice, to speak up on the things that we are forced to keep behind closed doors in our community, that not only our younger generation, but our children, our middle-aged and elderly women face every day in our community, and are told to hide it, keep it a secret. And this here, we are gonna come forward and say that we're not gonna take it anymore, and our women deserve to have a space to speak on that as well, and to have that safety. It will also help the community because we also understand that there are different type of women in our communities, those who are non-traditional, as if myself, but still identify as an immigrant Muslim woman, and those who are traditional. And what we do here at Woven is we are going to allow each woman to lead their own story. So rather she wants to take a traditional route on how she wants to deal with the issues, whether it's going towards religion and wanting to meet with an imam, or if she wants to go straight to court, or if she wants to do both, or if she simply just wants to have safe shelter for her and her children until she can move on to the next step. Our goal is to stay with her and be her safety net and be right next to her as she goes through this journey in her life, and let her know that she's not alone. Rahma's Refuge is our shelter program with Woven. Rahma's Refuge is a East African immigrant Muslim culturally specific shelter. It is the first in the country, and what we are doing is we're providing immigrant Muslim women with a space that they have never had before, where they can feel safe and sheltered while they are dealing with their domestic and sexual violence and fleeing from their abusers. It's something that I actually noticed my entire life. In my early childhood, I am a survivor of child domestic violence in my home with my own parents. And from there, I just noticed the needs that my mother had as a young child. So helping her with paperwork, or understanding her own legal rights, because I've been in this country my whole life. And once I witnessed that, and then I went into the University of Minnesota, I studied sociology with a minor in family violence prevention. And just reading through the textbook, I realized how much of myself I seen in the books. And then once, as I got older, I started meeting more people in our community who have the same similar Black background as I did as a child, and sitting down and getting into the work, coming into doing domestic and sexual violence work, I was meeting women of all different African backgrounds, and realizing that we are facing the same barriers as women who are English is our second language. In this country here is not our culture, and for women to be able to openly speak about being abused is something that it was still hidden, still kept a secret. Women didn't have that safe space. Rather, it was in a masjid or in their own families. So from there, working in the field, I noticed that everyone else had a space to go to that was designed for them. Rather, it was a Latina shelter, a shelter designed for Black women, a shelter designed, of course, for white women. But there was nowhere that East African women can go and fully feel comfortable and know that their culture, their language, and their traditions are gonna be respected. And also understanding that they will navigate through their story of their abuse completely different than any other woman. And I wanted to create that space that they will feel the love and the support from us here at Rahma's Refuge. How I came with the name Rahma's Refuge is I wanted my inspiration behind opening this shelter is my own mother and the experiences we had growing up. And I know that if she had a space where the women working there spoke her language, understood her barriers, understood her culture, understood her religion, she would have been more open to seeking help. And with that understanding, I wanted to open a shelter because she inspired me. So my mother's name is Rahma, and it also means grace and merciful. And that's what I want to provide the women that walk in. We determine our assessment for women in shelter is we do have a formal way of going about it. Women can call into day one services. We have partnered with agencies, with schools and hospitals that will, in other domestic and sexual violence agencies that will also provide us referrals of women to come in shelter. But then also there is a reality that the women in our communities are not likely going to go to the hospitals or go to their case managers and ask for domestic sexual violence services. So for that reason as well, we will take direct call-ins for women who are looking for shelter. Soon as they've come to the shelter, we'll do an assessment right there. And the assessment will include, what is the woman facing? What is she fleeing, whether it's domestic or sexual violence? And then from there, we'll assess her mental health to provide her mental health services if that's needed. Rahma's Refuge also has a children's program designed by my partner, Sarah Otley. The focus with that is that we want to provide case management services not only to the woman who's facing this, to the mothers, but we also want to focus on the children because children are equally facing this trauma. Our children's program will provide children with therapy, homework help, mental health resources as well, trauma-focused services. The supportive program that we offer in the shelter for women is we have partnered with other agencies that will provide women culturally specific therapy, therapists. We also have group sessions, one-on-one case management. We also provide women housing resources. We also provide the housing coordinated services, legal advocacy, immigration services. Well, we're a leading voice for women. I think that the leadership and the staff that we have make a huge difference. So what we do is we acknowledge that the women and the people in our community do face sexual abuse, they do face domestic violence, and with that you can correlate the vulnerability that women and children face and the mental illness that is connected to that as well. The goal is to build relationships with the people that the people in our community trust, such as the masjids and the imams, the elderly women in our community, as well as professionals in our community who are educated in those fields, to get them together so that we can start talking and we can acknowledge that women face this and how can we change the narrative of what women and children are facing every day behind closed doors. The way we would address sexual abuse could be educating women when they come in of what sexual abuse is. There's women that I've met over the years that will tell me stories that don't even know that they've been sexually abused or understand what domestic abuse is, right? Because it can come in different forms, whether it's financial, emotional, physical, mental abuse, so that they can reflect on themselves and recognize if they are in that situation. And once you recognize that you're in that situation, then you can, once the acknowledgement comes in, I'm hoping that women from there will reach out for our services so we can provide them the right resources. And with the vulnerability is when women come into the shelter, of course, confidentiality is our biggest key, especially with a culturally specific shelter, because in our community, of course, one of the biggest things is the fact that people don't want to talk about it because of how our community gossips so much and how people don't want to feel ashamed for what they're going through. So confidentiality is the utmost importance to us, so that women can understand when they come in that what happens here stays here behind our closed doors. We are not here to talk and expose anyone of their situations that they're facing. Confidentiality, I think, is the most important thing when it comes to women in their vulnerability during this time, because that is the key thing that makes women in our community feel safe, is knowing that their secrets are safe with us. Our job is to help them and their children be safe. And mental illness is so wide in subject. So a woman could have possibly never even been diagnosed with mental illness, and could have something to do with why she's facing domestic or sexual violence, or why her and her children are homeless, because she's not receiving the proper mental help that she deserves. And then also the mental illness that you face just being in that trauma, dealing with PTSD, having battered women syndrome, they all play a role in the woman in that particular time and what the women have to face and do in survival mode. And we acknowledge that, and we provide them, we do our best to partner with culturally specific therapists, attorney, legal advocates, especially hiring them within the Rahma's Refuge, to making sure our case managers and our staff reflect the women that we are serving, so that they're comfortable enough to be vulnerable, so that we can discuss the abuse, and we can discuss your mental health, so that when you do leave Rahma's Refuge, that you are in a better, clear state of mind, you feel safer, and then you walk out the door with more resources, and knowing that you're always welcome back to Rahma's Refuge to get any help that you need, so that you and your children can continue to live a safe and happy life. How the community can help, there's several ways. If you are a culturally specific individual who is in a profession that could help us, we would love for you to reach out to us directly at woven.org and see how we can partner to better help and provide more resources to women. Right now, we are still working on getting the shelter up and running, so we are in need of donations of furniture, office supplies, and you are also welcome to donate directly on our webpage at woven.org as well. We anticipate by the end of the year we'll be up and running once we are fully furnished and ready to have our doors open and select the right staff to work for us. Say thank you to Monay Productions for inviting me here today. I'd also like to say thank you to my partner, Sarah Utley, who worked with me every day, Diamond Vogel for donating paint for the shelter, Jay Selby's for donating the food, Habitat of Humanity for the volunteers they send out on a weekly to help us get the shelter up and running, and then of course our donors as well, and our family and friends who continue to support us.